Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei was the elemental dragon mage and became guardian of the Enchanted Forest movie. Before we start, please go support NormaElementruWolf for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made, there will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Chapter 1. Arrival of unexpected people. We might see an unknown group, but with certain people we know. Arthur. Volley, do you think this is the place? It looks like a simple forest. I don't think we'll find it. Ollie. I already told you that if he has to be here, I hope he's gotten stronger. I really want to fight my rival. He said it with unnatural excitement. Iku. You're going to start over. Remember, he's no longer your rival, and I doubt he wants to see us. Hiroka. I don't think so, Biku, since he's not a resentful person. He'll forgive us, Naya. Lefei. I just hope this goes well and there aren't any more problems than we've already had with the Chaos Brigade. But their sciatica was interrupted when they felt a strange energy and saw some animals that were two orange foxes, but the most surprising thing was that they wouldn't let them pass until they changed shape, and they saw that now they were more or less human, but they looked serious and hateful. Ollie. Relax, we're not here to do anything bad, we just want to ask you a few questions, that's all. Fox 1. Could you tell what dirty demons are doing in our domains in the magical lunar forest? Zoro 2. Calm down a bit, partner. What are demons doing so far from the underworld? Could they be those useless rogue demons? Iku. Moon Magic Forest. I've never heard of a place like this, and we're not renegades. We've just come to investigate in case someone we know has been here. Fox 1. Well, monkey boy, I can see that they aren't rogues because if they were, our barrier would have absorbed their energies until they died, since it's at the entrance of the forest. So if they're still alive, it means they aren't rogues. Zoro 2. But who are you looking for? We haven't seen any demons here, since the supernatural factions won't open up to us. Lefei. But why do they like the idea of facial features? Fox 1. That's none of your business, nosy girl. Arthur. Show some respect, he's my brother. He just asked a question, you didn't have to talk to him like that. Fox 2. My partner only told the truth. There are things demons like you and two shouldn't meddle in. Who are you supposed to be looking for? Ollie. We're looking for someone named Sekiryuutei. They've seen him showing a picture of Issei. The two fox guards were surprised by that, but they didn't like the surname Yodui. Fox 1. How is it that mere filthy demons know our leader and call him by that horrible last name? Arthur. Since he's their leader, we need to talk to him. Fox 2. Well, that's fine. We'll have a meeting with our leader because it seems they won't go on until they speak with him, and besides, I don't want to see my partner any angrier. Fox 1. It's not my fault that I'm disgusted by his mug and what it represents, even though that blonde guy over there went to Demon and Dragon. Zoro 2. That's true, but I don't know much. Iku. It's because he's Volley Lucifer and he's the White Dragon Emperor. Volley has an arrogant face now, they really have to respect him. Zoro 1. You're just a crazy movie geek who likes getting beaten up. I thought you'd be stronger and smarter. All I see is a fight fanatic. Volley was annoyed by this, but Biku grabbed his shoulder, saying they weren't there to cause trouble. The silver-haired fox groaned in annoyance. The two foxes opened the doors and were surprised to see a beautiful place in the old Japanese style, but with a modern twist. They saw beings that existed in the magical forests, but some were from fairy tales, and people looked at them askance because they knew they belonged to certain factions, and that wasn't right. They liked Volley's group. They felt those stares, and it made them a little nervous. Lefei. Excuse me, sir, but why are people looking at us like that? Fox 1. It's because the factions don't calm us down properly, since they always cause disasters and provoke unnecessary wars. That's why we're not allied with you, because here there is peace, which there isn't with the factions. Hiroka. But I'm surprised the Chaos Brigade didn't attack them, Naya. Fox 2, are you deaf or what, miss? We told you that this place is practically invisible to enemies and they can't even sense our presence. Besides, this place appears and disappears anywhere in the world to avoid enemies. This surprised Volley and his group. They hadn't expected this place to have such high protection. Arthur. But who created that barrier and what did they say? Fox 1. He was our leader, he nominated all the resistant magics, even the ancient ones, and created a seal that is the barrier. Ollie. And how strong is their leader? Fox 2. Why do you ask that, young man? Do you intend to fight our leader? If so, you'd better tell your friends to start preparing a grave for you, since with the little power you have, you barely reach our leader's heels. Iku. Aren't they being a little arrogant by saying he's too strong? Fox 1. Do you think, monkey boy, that we were just talking nonsense? We were just telling the truth. Let's put our leader on the ground, and they'd only manage to get 0.1% off him without breaking a sweat, and the dragon of the apocalypse would barely manage to get half the percentage I told you about. This shocked the group. They hadn't expected Issei to be at that level of power, but this only excited Vali even more, as she wanted to fight a rival. This grey-haired guy, if they just told you that you and your group are barely ants compared to Issei's power, fighting him will only lead to him getting killed for real. They arrived at a beautiful floating palace where they stood on a seal with symbols that the group didn't understand, but the guards did. Then the circle glowed, teleporting them inside the palace, which was gigantic on the inside. Vali's group saw that there were many young people there, some as young as 10 to 15 years old. They wondered who they were and why they were there, or if they were going to have a meeting of heirs like demons do. But one of them asked a question. Iku? Excuse me for asking, but there are so many young people here. Are you having a meeting of young heirs like the demons do? Because of the question, the guards looked at them as if they were idiots. The group of demons, even the young ones talking amongst themselves, noticed what they said and looked at them as if they were a bunch of vertebrates. Fox 1. Are they fools or are they pretending to know our leader's aura, not sensing that the young ones have the same aura? They are the princes and princesses, the children of our leader, and they are here because some are resting from the training they had with their father. That invited Vali's group too much. I didn't expect this, and even less from two girls in the group who didn't let's take the news well. Vali. Well, Yodui doesn't waste any time, judging by what I see. Although Arthur and Biku signaled him to be quiet because of the dark aura emanating from Lefei and Kuroka, Lucifer fell because fighting with women is a problem. Fox 2. Let's follow the leader. He's probably still training one of his sons. He must be at the training camp. Come on, don't stray, and don't touch anything. After they left with the guards, two of the young men in the room were talking about the demon visitors in the palace. Shiro. Hey Nison, what do you think those demons are up to? Could it be that they've come to make an alliance with father? I hope not, because that will only get us into trouble with future enemies who will disturb our peace. Shiro. I don't know the others, but I just know this won't be good. These demons give me a bad feeling that something's going to go wrong. Shiro. Yes, Nison, I also heard about that one with monkey-like characteristics because of his energy who claims to know our father. Shiro. I just hope nothing bad happens, because I felt like the two women in the group looked unfriendly when they found out we were the sons of the same father. Something's not right here. Shiro. I just hope those two don't approach father with any ulterior motives, because our mothers won't like this. Shiro. And you think there's anyone else father would like? You know very well he only likes our mothers. He rejects anyone else. I just hope they don't cross the line, because father doesn't have much patience with troublesome women, to say the least. Shiro. We need to warn the others to keep a sharp eye on these demons, in case they're up to something. Shiro. Hi Nissan. The two left and told the others. They understood, since some had noticed the strange behavior of the demon visitors. Here are the appearances of Shiro and Shiro. He is Shiro. And he is Shiro. These are some of Issei's children. Meanwhile, the others could see a giant training field like a coliseum, and in the center stood a man with red hair and eyes of the same color, though if you looked closely, you could see they were like fire. He wore clothes like a ninja in training, but with a kind of sash or scarf around his waist of a color that resembled lava. This man is the leader of this hidden kingdom. He is Issei Elementru, formerly Issei Yodui. He was having a training session with one of his sons named Zion, who had skin as white as his father, black hair like his mother, but with his father's red eyes. He also had his father's wolf ears, though he didn't like to show them much, and his hair was long, reaching his waist. This is what Issei looks like. He is Zion, one of Issei's other sons. The guard said. Fox. This is our leader's training camp. Lefei. Excuse me, who are those training in the center of the field? I asked the magician curiously. Kuroka. Naya the redeed is so hexy Naya, but they didn't say Issei would be here Naya say at the busty cat in her flirty cat tone. And the guards like that lack of respect here. Fox 2. Excuse me, miss, but I ask you to be careful with what you say, and that goes for all of you demons. He said it very seriously. Fox 1. The one with red hair is our leader Issei Elementru-sama, and the young man with black hair is his son Zion Elementru, one of the princes here. Vali's group was speechless, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. All the changes the former chestnut-haired Yodui had undergone, and especially the speed he could display with his son. They could see the young man attacking him with a sword. But Issei moved with monstrous ease, dodging their attacks and stopping them with a single flick of his wrist. This was difficult to see because they couldn't see how fast Issei was moving. If they couldn't see him, they could barely see how his son was moving. Vero, Vali's group is focused on learning how strong the former brunette has become after what they did to him in the past. Hiroka and Lefei were blushing deeply upon seeing the change in Issei over the years and how strong he has become. They wanted to respectfully discuss what happened a long time ago and try to fix the mistake they made. For Kali, it was exciting to watch Issei and his son train as he could see the shockwaves in the air. From a box seat, they could see everything from above and they had to hold on to something to avoid falling due to the tremors and wind waves. However, they could see that the guards were unaffected, as if this kind of training combat was an everyday occurrence. Ollie. I'm very excited, Albion, because of how strong my rival has become. I can't wait to have a fight with him to see what he's capable of. Albion. Volley, I told you he's no longer your rival. Remember, he doesn't have the booster gear anymore, so he's no longer our rival. Now it's Ryuudui. Ollie. But Ryu is weak. He can barely use his balance for 5 minutes before running out of energy and becoming unconscious. Issei could last much longer than that, and with his armor transformation, he's a worthy rival for me. Albion. He's not, Volley. Remember that after you and the rest of the idiot faction leaders did what you did to him, he's no longer the Red Dragon Emperor. He's clearly living a new and happy life with his family and he has what he always wanted. People who support and love him, not liars and traitors like you and the others. Albion. And remember, if the girls in your group didn't like the news that he has children, especially the number we saw in the room, the others aren't going to like hearing this either. Albion. And I can see that his power is enormous. Those foxes weren't lying, Volley. He could definitely leave you more dead than alive in less than a minute, so I ask you not to provoke him unless you want to die, Volley. Albion severed mental communication with Volley until they got closer to the training field and saw Issei and his son stop their fight to see who they had brought, but Issei had a serious face and said. Issei. I didn't expect to see some people from my past back here. Part 2. Short beating of the white man in small fights. Volley. Hello my eternal rival, how has life treated you? He said, raising his fist in greeting. But Issei and his son only raised an eyebrow, looking at Volley with disinterest. Issei. What I've done with my life is none of your business, Blanco. You and I are rivals. Your rival is my useless good-for-nothing brother, Ryu. Or have you forgotten that you agreed to have my booster gear taken from you by force? Zion was surprised to find himself facing one of the bastards who had hurt him in his past. Zion. So you're one of those traitorous rats who betrayed my father. Why are you and your group coming to our home to look for my father? Ollie. Don't get involved, boyfriend, it's adult stuff. But he fell when he felt the two foxes with their swords at Volley's neck. He didn't even feel them move. Fox 1. Don't disrespect Zion-sama, you filthy, disgusting demon Issei-sama. Issei. Calm down roll and roll. The foxes. If Issei-sama stepped aside, letting Volley breathe. Issei. And Lucifer warned you not to speak to my son like that again, and he's my 4th oldest son, so he has a right to be in this conversation. Now tell me, what did you come here for? Because I doubt it was just to talk. Iku. Relax, Issei, we didn't come to fight. We came to find you because there's going to be a meeting and we don't want you there. Well, you know what happened. Issei. Let's see how long it took them to realize their mistake. Don't tell me 6 years. Do you think I don't know that they were looking for me for the 6th year after my disappearance? Arthur. But you knew we were looking for you, why didn't you come back to us? You know how worried we all were about you. He said, annoyed, because many times he had to see his sister locked up, proud of what he did. Issei. I don't want Arthur to betray me again or make me look like an idiot again, and that won't happen again. Besides, I already have a beautiful family to worry about, not you guys. Ollie. You know we won't leave until you agree to go to the meeting, right? Yodui said with a challenging look to the Redeed, who didn't like it. But he watched with amazement and a little fear as Issei stood in front of him, his claws enveloped in black energy, burning his throat. Then Issei released him, gasping for air. Ollie's pav. Albion, what is this feeling I have in front of Issei? Albion. That's fear, Volley. Your body tells you not to bother him, but you're stubborn. You shouldn't have said that last name he hates. What do you gain by making him angry, by making him kill you in a second? Ollie. I just wanted to encourage him to have a fight with me. I didn't think he'd take it so badly. Besides, what strength? And what was that technique? I felt like a black energy was burning my neck when he squeezed me. Albion. Kali, those were flames of purgatory and he can control them. Be grateful he lowered the heat intensity so much, otherwise you'd be dead and headless now. He only gave you that as a small lesson and you deserved it for talking too much. Ollie. Albion, don't be like this. You should be on my side and understand that I just want my friend and rival back. You know nothing is the same without him. He said this sadly and regretfully for agreeing to betray the former brunette. Albion. And whose fault is it, Volley, that this has happened? I'm on the side of reason, since I seem to be the only one here with a brain, apparently. And stop provoking me. You least want me to turn Volley's mind into mush. Issei. Lucifer, you'd better not repeat that in front of me or my children again, or I'll do something worse than that to you. The others were frightened by Issei's gaze, which resembled that of a wolf and a dragon who wanted to tear them all apart. Issei. Well, since I don't want to see them much longer here, I agree to go to that meeting, but only to see what those treacherous and idiotic leaders want, so they stop bothering us and to clear a few things up. Volley recovered from the small punishment given to him by the Redeed with the help of a phoenix tear. Volley. Issei, how about we have a little fight like in the old days before we leave? Issei. Looks like you won't stop bothering me until I beat you up. Fine, White, but if I leave you on the verge of death, it's your own fault. Roll and Roll already warned you about that. When did you even think of that idea? Issei. Son, can you tell your other siblings to watch from the stands so they don't worry about the noise? I'll also show them some of the techniques I'll teach them in their training. And tell your mothers we have some guests coming and have them tell the chefs to prepare something to eat after this, since it's almost dinner time. Zion. Yes, father, I'll be back soon with everyone here. The boy disappeared, leaving his father alone with Volley's group and the guards. Issei. Roleplay can repair the change for combat. Roll. Yes, Issei-sama, at your service, and in a few minutes the field was ready for combat. I'd cough, I'd say cough, massacre cough of a white lizard. Then in the stands, you could see Issei's other children appreciating the women who were so demure they left everyone speechless, not only because they were so nun-like, but also because of how few of them there were, yet they managed to have so many children. It seems Issei didn't waste any time. Furthermore, Volley's team recognized one of the women in the box as Ubeluna, the former queen of Razor, but here she was one of Issei's wives, and surely the mother of one of his children. In the stands, Issei's children talk amongst themselves about the fight their father will have with one of the visiting demons. Viru. Hey Jin, what do you think those demons are planning that has anything to do with our father? This is what Viru looks like. He is one of Issei and Ubeluna's children, since his form is like that of demons, inherited from his mother, meaning he looks a bit like a bat because of his wings. Jin. I don't know, brother, but I don't like them, especially the silver-haired one our father is going to fight, since he seems really excited about it. That's what Jin looks like. Shiru. That's weird. Brothers, someone with the power he has isn't even close to father's strength, and he wants to fight him without knowing his own strength. That would be suicide any way you look at it. Shiro. That guy is definitely crazy, or what do you think about this, Kaio Nison? Kaio. The one who wants to fight father has a demon and dragon aura, so from what he reads in the books at the Royal Library, it says he's the bearer of the White Dragon Emperor Sagrier, meaning Albion. That's what he reads, but in his current state of power, I don't think he can last father for even 4 minutes. Shiru. And you know the rival of the white one that I remember is the red one, right? Kaio. That's right, but the new Red Dragon Emperor is a disgrace to the title, since he's more than 50 times weaker than the white one. If he were to face father, he'd be dead with the first blow. He said this seriously. Kaio. I wish I could maintain the armor's balance without running out of energy. Jin. And how long does the Junjin driver last in that thing? Kaio. He's worse at that, he can't even last a minute and a half without losing control. What a decision. This is what Kaio looks like. The rest of Issei's children listened attentively to the conversation of some of their older siblings, as some had their own theories about what those demons were doing there, though some liked it. The disrespectful way Volley spoke to Issei, as if they were lifelong friends, was striking. Because the young people could see and feel that their father did not look at Volley as a friend or anything, he only looked at him with boredom and annoyance at his attitude towards him. While this was happening, let's talk about some of Issei's wives. And Moon. Flora, fairy princess and of the element of nature and light. Alice. Princess of the Tengu angel Yakai element of light and darkness. Those are some of Issei's wives. I won't list them all here because it's a bit tedious and I thought I'd do it in another chapter. Let's continue with the story. Flora. No, I don't like the presence of those demons. Besides, they are some of the traitors who made our dear Ubeluna suffer. Ubeluna. They are the one with the staff, he is Bhikkhu, a descendant of a certain Goku. The one who wants to fight our husband, his name is Volley Lucifer, one of the descendants of the ancient Lucifer and the wielder of the White Dragon Emperor. He is very arrogant when it comes to fighting and was our husband's former rival. You already know what happened. The other two nodded in confirmation. Ubeluna. The blonde man with a sword and formal attire is Arthur Pendragon, descendant of King Arthur. Alicia. And the two women who are in the group. Ubeluna. The blonde in a mage's outfit, she's Leffe Pendragon, Arthur's sister, and the other one, an Ekamata, is Kuroga. These two are among those who rejected and broke our husband's heart, not to mention betraying him by choosing their useless brothers, thinking they were better than him. Flora. They're definitely idiots. I wonder what these demons are plotting with our husband, since I doubt they just came to talk and that's it. Alicia. I don't like how those women can't take their eyes off her husband. They're up to something. 2. Ubaluna, calm down Alicia. Remember that our husband only has eyes for us. He hates, disgusts, and is indifferent to insistent, annoying, and slippery women like you, especially treacherous ones, because he only loves us. Ubaluna's words calmed the other girls and those who were thinking the same thing. Flora. I just hope Issei-kun shows that descendant of Lucifer his place for his disrespectful attitude. Alicia. I just hope he uses kun, just plays with him, and that the White One doesn't make him angry, which is already evident, otherwise this will be his last day on Earth for that demon. Ubaluna. We just have to wait to find out. Part 2. Beating the White, small meeting of biblical factions. Issei and Vali were already in the center of the field, and Raul would be the referee. When Raul gave the signal, the fight began. Vali was the first to attack. But his blows did nothing to Issei, who stopped them all with a single finger. This surprised both Vali and his group, but for Issei's family, it was normal, since they knew how strong Issei was, and he was holding back too much to avoid killing Vali with a kick. Vali was fed up with him only defending and not attacking, but he thought about provoking him. Maybe that way he would take it seriously, because he saw that Issei wasn't taking the fight seriously. Vali. What's wrong, Yodui? Are you so weak that you can only defend yourself? Why don't you counterattack? Or are you afraid of me? Or are you still the same weakling you've always been? Or are you ashamed that your children see their father as a failure? This guy's already dead, more like I think they warned him, but he played dumb. Issei didn't like what Vali said at all. It only caused him a lot of irritation. He didn't like being compared to someone he considered weak, being called by the surname of the people he hated most in the world, or even being humiliated in front of his family. He would definitely teach Vali a lesson. In the stands, Issei's children were saying. That one's deader than dead. But the Vali group. Eku. Because I feel like Vali just really messed up and is about to get the beating of her life. Arthur. I just know he's looking for trouble, hoping it'll teach him not to talk too much and especially not to anger anyone because Issei isn't happy at all with what Vali said. In Vali's mind. Albion. Are you crazy? How could you say that, Vali? Didn't you hear that you're not even close to his power? Do you want me to kill you? Show yourself right now so that young Issei can't see you getting the beating you deserve for talking too much. Vali. I don't think that will happen, Albion. I only did it so he would take this seriously and see how strong my rival is. Albion. You don't understand unless you get beaten up, but we have to cut off mental communication. Vali. Why did Albion say it doubtfully? Issei. Because of young Issei, he'll blow your head off with one punch. Vali realized it was true, severed his mental connection with the dragon, and narrowly dodged the attack. When he saw Issei, his fist was on the ground, but he unleashed a torrent of wind, raising numerous mounds of earth, dust, and rocks. When the dust cloud dissipated, Vali and his companions looked pale, as a crater 1 kilometer deep and 50 meters wide had formed. Vali was sweating a little because if he hadn't dodged, he would undoubtedly have suffered a lot of damage. He saw Issei, who had a gaze as cold as a thread, sending a chill through Vali and his group. Issei. Never say that about me again, Vali. I warned you not to say that last name again. I was thinking of showing a little mercy and giving you 2 light blows to knock you out without leaving you half dead, but you had to open your mouth. You had to remind me of the last name I hate and despise so much, and you had to practically humiliate me about my past in front of my family, in my own house, and talk to me and challenge me to do this as if we were rivals when we're not, much less friends. Without a doubt, I'll teach you a lesson. Don't complain if I leave you more alive than dead, just like they did 15 years ago, don't you think? Issei. If you want me to take you seriously, I'll do it, but if I were you, I'd use the armor because I don't think you could withstand another hit like that in your base form. He said this while emerging from the crater he created. Vali swallowed his nervousness and, now ready to fight seriously, activated his armor and launched an attack at Issei. But when he thought he had hit him, Issei was gone. Vali thought he had killed him and became nervous, as did his group. When he saw Issei flying in the sky with wings that were like a dragon's but different until he understood his wings to attack Issei, he said. Issei. You opened me up, Vali. I'm disappointed in this fight. Your moves are good, but you're not at my level, and you never will be. At the level of a true dragon. Issei. I am honored that I show you a little of my strength as a dragon mage elemental guardian and king of this place. Then he gave Vali a light tap with his fingers, sending him flying. Issei then appeared behind him, flying, and placed his hand on Volley's shoulder, pushing him down at monster speed, causing Volley to crash into the ground, creating a slightly larger character than before. This part was somewhat similar to Goku's fight against Beerus the first time they met. That's how it was, but Volley Maduras barely managed to stop before activating the Gunjer driver, but upon doing so, Issei said. Issei. You finally got serious, but that wouldn't make you win, Volley. If you had used that tactic from the beginning, maybe you would have made me sweat, but it's time to end this. Volley tried to divide Issei's power, but Issei barely felt anything. Issei's POV. My power is divine, but if he only knew that he has 1% of my total power, it's too much for him. Albion. Kali is expelling that power quickly, it's overloading. Volley. But what's happening, Albion? Albion. Just do it and quickly. He was saying it hysterically. Volley released the power he had absorbed and felt very tired, as if his raven were burning and about to convulse. He almost fell silent and said, "What is this? Why did so much power come out? What's happening to me?" He said it in a panic. Issei. You absorbed too much, it was only 1% of what you could handle. It's a good thing I released it, otherwise half your body would have exploded. You're not worthy of having such power, that's why it burns so much. Issei. So goodbye Volley, it's over, give up, you can't take it anymore, now you're even more ashamed of the state you're in. Volley. Don't give up easily, and you know it, Issei. He said this with a serious look, but with excitement for this fight. Issei. Sigh well, you asked for it. You should have given up. I feel honored to know this attack is from the dark divine ancestral magic. Issei. Behold this, Volley Lucifer Velardeon's eye. An energy that resembled a dragon of purple and black lightning, carrying a great charge of negative and destructive energy, shot out at Volley. Everyone saw a current of wind and earth swirl around them, and they looked to see Volley on the other side of the field, slammed against a wall, which was cracked by the monstrous attack. Volley could be seen in a very deplorable state. Brawl. Volley Lucifer can no longer continue, the winner is King Issei Elementru-sama. All of Issei's children applauded their father's display of power, demonstrating that he has no mercy if provoked, and Volley provoked him and got a beating for it. Shiro. Buju, Dad, that's awesome. I really want him to teach me that attack, although he had to use a lot of power to avoid killing that Volley guy. Viru. I'm with you, brother. That was impressive, although I expected Volley to at least put in more effort. It seems he didn't think of a strategy and just went in guns blazing. Jin. I definitely think using his brain isn't really his thing. Shiro. He would have accepted defeat when his father told him to surrender to avoid being in such a regrettable state. Zion. He brought it on himself for thinking he could go against father, and father got his revenge a little for what he did to him in the past. I understand father would have done the same. Alan. Let's just hope, brothers, that demon or whatever it is isn't dead, because we don't want any trouble with the demon faction over the death of that guy, whatever his name is. He said the last part with a yawn. This is what Alan, Issei's other son, looks like. Shiro. Alan, it wasn't because you were asleep in your room. Alan. Yeah, but the noise they were making woke me up, plus I saw a guy in armor fly past my room through the window, so I got curious to see who Dad was beating up, so I came here, and that's why I'm here. Shiro. Yeah, I see. Meanwhile, Volley's team stood speechless, stunned by the fight. Issei was clearly not the same as before, as evidenced by the beating he gave Volley. They rushed to check on their friend, whose injuries were visible from the beating. They had to hold on tight to avoid being thrown or falling out of their seats, as the attacks were brutal. Only Issei's family seemed unaffected, indicating they were incredibly strong, and that these were Issei's weakest attacks, or perhaps he reduced their power to avoid killing Volley. A while later Volley could be seen in a room on a bed and a doctor with cat ears. Hiroka. How are you, doctor? Are you alright? Doctor? Yes, Issei-sama has healed most of his wounds, so there's no problem. He'll wake up in a little while. Just be sure to rest for a week. Also, tell your friend to avoid getting into trouble, or the pain will return and some of his wounds will reopen. Doctor? I just hope your friend doesn't ask for another fight with Issei-sama, otherwise he won't be around next time. When they entered, Volley was already awake with bandages on certain parts of his body. Biku? How are you feeling, Volley? Volley? I'm more or less Biku, I feel like I'm being run over by like 50 mountains at the same time. Arthur? At least you're still alive. I just hope you don't try to fight Issei again, because it seems like he was just toying with you. If he had been serious, he would have killed you in one hit. Volley? This fight was worthy of my eternal rival. I have to strive to reach him, he said with determination. Biku? Volley, that's enough. He's not your rival. He's not the same boy we knew anymore. He's different now. Besides, he almost killed you without hesitation. It's obvious he hates us because of what happened years ago. Ali. But Biku. But they were interrupted when his servant announced that dinner was ready. Issei was already at the table with his wives and children, chatting happily like a family until they noticed the presence of the demons. One of Issei's wives said. Flora. Please sit down, you're guests anyway. You can't leave without having something to eat. Everyone nodded and sat in the empty seats. Dinner was quiet, though the tension was palpable. Before they arrived, Issei had told his family about the faction meeting and that he had to go to discuss certain matters from the past. Some of his children advised against it, saying it wasn't a good idea, but the older one said their father could take care of himself, even though they were uneasy. His children then proposed something. They proposed going to Kuo Academy for a while, but it was just a cover to act as their father's bodyguards, since his sons were captains of their own divisions within the kingdom's military forces. This was while their father was in Kuo for the meeting, in case the factions plotted anything, especially the Chaos Brigade. His wives agreed it was for the best. At night, the boys simply teleported away, as they didn't like being so far from home. Issei sighed and accepted this, but told his sons not to get into trouble. They nodded. After dinner, Vali's group teleported him to the underworld to make his farewell quicker. Small meeting of factions. Vali and his group managed to reach the underworld and were received by the servants. They arrived at the meeting hall, and the leaders saw them and told them to take a seat. When they did, Searches asked. Searches? And it was well worth finding a trace of you-know-who, right? Vali nodded, and everyone waited for his report. He told them about the magic moon forest, everything they had seen, all the people they had met, that Issei was the king and leader of the place, that he had wives, how many children he had, how strong Issei was, and about the beating and near-death experience he had given Vali. And that explained the clothes and Vali's body, and they couldn't believe how strong he had become. Biku showed them a video through a magic circle, and everyone's jaws dropped, especially Drag, since he hadn't expected Issei to become so strong after being replaced by his brother. Although the women didn't like knowing that he was married and had children with other women and not with them, the hatred he had for them was evident in how he took it out on Vali, and it also worried the leaders and especially his family, or rather, his family. Since the girls believed they should be the only ones to have children with him, everything was going well until they switched him for his brother. Even the kids agreed, as they didn't like Issei's attitude and thought he was weak, believing his brother would be a better father. However, things spiraled out of control when a demon sent a video exposing Issei as a traitor who had deceived them all. Things only worsened when they did everything else to Issei. But the explanation for this will be for another chapter. That's all I'll say for now. When they learned the truth, since Rizabin revealed it to them in an attack, everyone couldn't believe it, especially the girls, his family, his former children, and the leaders who were coming back with this. The former children of the former chestnut-haired man couldn't believe that their father had built a life with another family, that they loved each other, and that they had many more siblings than they expected. They felt remorseful for what they had done to their father, for not believing in him, and for knowing that he had more children and other things. Drag wanted to get his partner back because he regretted what he had done. He said that Issei tarnished his reputation with certain things that were nothing but lies, which is why he replaced him with Rias. Now, because of the truth, his reputation is in tatters. Michael. I just hope Issei-kun forgives us and rejoins the alliance, he said worriedly. Azazel. I'm sure Michael will do it, and besides, we'll add his family and get the benefits of the supposed kingdom that the boy is king of. Zeus. I'll tell the others in my faction, although I've seen Artemis, Athena and Aphrodite acting a little strange, and I feel like they're hiding something from me. Me? Haha, if you only knew, old man, if you only knew that these are Issei's other wives that Vali and his group didn't see, because they didn't want to draw attention to themselves, since it's not the right time for this to be known yet. Besides, they have Issei's children, and you're practically a grandfather, even though your supposed factions hate you for what you did to their father in the past, as do the other factions. Zeus. After the betrayal we committed against the boy, I saw them acting strangely one day, and when I tried to ask them about it, they ignored me. I think they still hated me for what we did to the boy. After almost a year of being locked away in their temples, one day they came out with the greatest happiness in the world, but I don't know what it was. Since that day, they've been acting very strangely. Bisaka. I don't know what Zeus Dono will be, but I feel like we'll find out the day of the meeting with Issei-kun. I just hope this turns out alright. Brah. I can't believe this is happening to us. Does anyone know anything about that bastard who tricked us all? Searches. If you're referring to Orimura, we don't know anything about him after that day when, at the girl's wedding with him and Rias, he reveals that he's from the Chaos Brigade and works for Rizabin, and that all of this was his doing, the one who betrayed Ramos to Issei. And furthermore, it revealed that Ryuk was only jealous of Issei for having the girls, and that he only wanted to have fun with them, and his jealousy of Issei-kun's intelligence and strategies, and the fact that he didn't have a Sagrier, caused us all to mistreat him, because we thought he was weak. Rias. Me and the girls regret the way we treated him. He didn't deserve any of what we did to him. Besides, we used him to see if he could give us strong children, and took advantage of the feelings he had for us. She said sadly, and all the girls lowered their heads, crying. For all the times he helped them with their past problems and traumas, they repaid him by using him to have children against their will, and later they want to replace him with his brother, sleeping with him behind Issei's back. For example. My brothers and I feel bad about what we did to Dad, she said, squeezing her breasts while trying not to cry over what he did. For example, he always wanted to spend time with me, but I always looked down on him and always fought with him over school subjects. I even said that others were better than him and that Kiba-sensei was like a father to me, knowing that it hurt him to hear me say that. Without a doubt, I am a bad son. I witnessed his suffering and pain and told him that he deserved what happened to him for being weak and useless. And that it was a disgrace to us and that I was ashamed to be his son. How sorry I am. His other siblings came to comfort their brother, since they knew how he felt, since they would regret doubting their father, ignoring him, and despising all the good he did for them, and seeing that he had a new family who truly loved each other, and that he was happy with others, and not with them. Searches. He feels terrible about all this, especially for his sister and nephew, and that his son also feels bad for not supporting Issei and believing everyone else. He wishes he could go back in time and ask for this to happen, but he couldn't because even if he wanted to. It was impossible since time travel is forbidden even by the gods. Searches. Well, everyone is dismissed for the next meeting we'll have with Issei-kun to discuss certain matters and convince him to rejoin the alliance and become part of the factions again, and to ask about other things we all have doubts about regarding what he has done. Throughout this time, and so that on that day we will gather the other leaders. Goodbye everyone. All the leaders left, and even the other clan members had to go and rest. Even the girls and their children left, as today was a very long day for everyone, filled with many revelations. Searches was left alone in the hall thinking about the things that could happen at the meeting with the former chestnut-haired man and everything else, just hoping that everything would go well, that he would forgive them, that he would become part of the factions again, and that he would return to the. His sister's group wanted him to return to the girls and their children, though he didn't know how Issei would take it. All he had left was one thought. Remembering everything the former brunette had done for them in the past and how they repaid him. Stabbing him in the back, kicking, humiliating, and torturing his true hero, and replacing him with his brother, who was filled with envy and unhealthy jealousy and a desire to possess everything, and also by trusting a stranger. He brought them supposed evidence that was more than obvious, as fake as the love your ex had for you, and that caused everything they did to the former brunette, whom Issei used to see as an older brother to admire, but now he only saw him as a nuisance unworthy of his sister. And the Redeed just whispered, crying in that empty room, clutching his chest and lowering his head in shame, his hair covering his face. Issei, little brother, I'm truly sorry for not trusting you and causing this. If I had realized this in time and told the others, we would N''T have betrayed and abandoned you and taken away your happiness. You'd be with my sister and your son. It's a shame it's all my fault for falling for the lies so easily. I hope you can forgive us. Please come back. We need you. He said this while crying and blaming himself for everything because he was right to be the first to surrender, to be deceived by Ryuk, and to believe in that demon allied with Rizabun. As the Redeed got up to go home and do his work, he continued to lament his actions. Like the others, wondering if this was the karma that Issei said would come to them, karma certainly shows no mercy to anyone. Issei's wives. Ubuluna, first wife. Flora, second wife. Alicia, third wife. Aphrodite, fourth wife. Artemis, fifth wife. Athena, sixth and last wife. Those are all of Issei's wives. I made it that way because I liked it better. Also, because it's kind of a mini harem. Children of Issei. Hiashi hi-ho to Ubuluna y Issei. Ryo hi-ho to Ubuluna y Issei. Ren hi-ho to y Issei. Hiashi, son of Ubuluna and Issei. Viru, son of Ubuluna and Issei. Naomi, daughter of Ubuluna and Issei. Lisi, daughter of Ubuluna and Issei. Ruby, daughter of Ubuluna and Issei. Flora and Issei's children. Zach, son of Flora and Issei. Max, son of Flora and Issei. Leo, son of Flora and Issei. Toshiba, son of Flora and Issei. Alice, daughter of Flora and Issei. Cloud, son of Flora and Issei. Adro, son of Flora and Issei. Children of Alicia and Issei. Edgewer, son of Alicia and Issei. Issei's children part 2. Jin, son of Alicia and Issei. Hanzo, son of Alicia and Issei. Zion, son of Alicia and Issei. Oliver, son of Alicia and Issei. Alex, son of Alicia and Issei. Sophia, daughter of Flora and Issei. Neaton, son of Alice and Issei. Liam, son of Alicia and Issei. Israel, son of Alicia and Issei. Children of Aphrodite and Issei. Jess, son of Aphrodite and Issei. Garama, son of Aphrodite and Issei. Hadi, daughter of Aphrodite and Issei. Adrian, son of Aphrodite and Issei. Peter, son of Aphrodite and Issei. Children of Artemis and Issei. Shiro. Alan, son of Artemis and Issei. Beato, son of Artemis and Issei. Oscar, son of Artemis and Issei. Alejandra, daughter of Artemis and Issei. Issei's children Part 3. Lily, daughter of Artemis and Issei. Bianca, daughter of Artemis and Issei. Julia, daughter of Artemis and Issei. Jeru and Jiro, children of Artemis and Issei. Children of Athena and Issei. Durai hi-ho de Athena y Issei. Gashiro hi-ho de Athena y Issei. Piero, son of Athena and Issei. Sauda, son of Athena and Issei. Jack, son of Athena and Issei. Hayo and Yuki, children of Athena and Issei. Those are all the children Issei had with his wives. The children of a dragon king go to Kuo to meet their half-siblings. In an alley, a magic circle could be seen, which I appreciated, and from it came a lot of young people of all ages, but the oldest to speak was Hiyashi. Well, we're just a few blocks away from Kuo Academy. We'll split up so the older ones will go to third year and university, which for some reason is at the same academy. The next two will go to second grade, the others will go to first grade, the others will go to the school that is 2 blocks from here, and the rest of you take care of the little ones, they all know why we are here. Alice. We're here to investigate what the factions are plotting with father and to protect him until the factions meeting. Ren. Plus, we have to be on the lookout for that Chaos Brigade. Oscar. Don't forget that we will meet the former sons of our father who betrayed him for the useless man that is our ex-uncle. Viru. Don't remind me. If I see one of those guys and they do anything to us, I'll beat them to a pulp. Sophia. Don't forget that there are perverts in that academy. Lily. Imagine if our former siblings fell in love with us since they don't know about us. Victor. Don't say that, sister. It disgusts me just to know it. Hey Durai, why are you so quiet? Durai. I was just thinking, don't worry, just be aware of everything, don't let your guard down and avoid getting into trouble, seeing some of your brothers causing disasters. The troublemakers. We don't know what you're talking about, nor did Sama say it, leaving those who don't know. Durai. You'd better not cause a mess. We came to help father, not to cause problems, is that clear? Dodo's high. Nisama. They all split up to go to the academy, but along the way people stared at them, since it's not normal to see so many young people with those hair colors, especially redeeds. Since the girls found the boys attractive, they already had some rather unholy thoughts about them, and the same went for the boys towards the girls. However, the way Durai and the others looked at their sisters made them uneasy, and all the men and women turned pale and looked away. The most frightening look was Durai's, which resembled that of a lion. I was going to devour it in one bite. Upon arriving at the academy, all the students stared at them. Just imagine with their ears, tails, and hidden wings, and wearing the academy uniform. The girls blushed and their eyes were like hearts as they looked at the young men, and the boys felt the same way about the girls, although they disliked the perverted way they looked at them. But a certain group of demons, half fallen angels and half angels, stared at the group of people in surprise, though one sensed their aura and felt a familiar aura mingled with the young people. One of them, seeing his brother acting strangely, said. X. Hey Kurenai, are you okay? Why did you stay with that group that just wants everyone's attention here, even though the girls are pretty? There. And the boys must be cute, she said a little shyly. Kurenai. Kurabara, you felt it too, didn't you? Kurabara. Yes, brother, they have the essence of dad's aura. Zen. You're joking, right? Kurabara just shook his head. X. That means they are our father's children and our half-siblings, he said incredulously. Kurenai. There's no doubt about that, but the question is, what are they doing here? And if they're here, is dad probably here too? She said this with the hope that her dad would forgive them. They went to their classes since the older ones were about to start. The older ones went to university and the third year of secondary school. The middle ones went to second year and the others went to first year. Let's start with the first year students. The teacher said, okay, guys, you'll have 7 new classmates. I hope you treat them well, and I don't want to hear that they've been bothered. The students wondered who the new students were. Their thoughts differed. The boys wanted them to be pretty girls, and the girls wanted them to be handsome boys. And they remembered the group of young people from that morning and knew there were some their age and wanted them to be those people. Stop. The sensei opened the door and told them to come in, and a group of 4 girls and 2 boys entered. As soon as the whole room saw them, they screamed with excitement, although for our group of protagonists, this was an earache. Teacher. Silence in the classroom, you're going to expose your ears to someone. He said, annoyed and with a slight headache from the shouting. Students. We're sorry, sensei, they said, saddened by what had happened. Teacher. Okay, guys, present your classmates. Issei. Hello everyone, my name is Issei Elementru, and I hope we all get along. Adrian. My name is Adrian Elementru, and I don't like noisy people like you, he said with a cold look at the group his companions gave him when they saw him. Students. We're sorry, Adrian-san-kun, they said nervously, judging by the look. Okay, my turn. Alejandra. Hello everyone, I'm Alejandra Elementru, and I hope we get along well. Bianca. Hello, I'm Bianca Elementru and I hope we can get along well. Julia. Hello, how are you? My name is Julia Elementru, and I hope we all get along. Jack. Hello everyone, bowing politely to everyone. My name is Jack Elementru, and I don't like troublemakers. I hope we can understand each other because of that. Everyone was surprised by his polite bow, but a little bewildered by how curt it was. However, they were pulled from their thoughts by what the professor said. Professor. Well, does anyone have a question for them? Everyone raised their hand. Student. Excuse me, but why does everyone have the same last name? Jack. It's because we're all brothers. Student. Do Jack-san and Adrian-san have girlfriends? She asked, blushing, and like the others, she waited for their answer. Adrian. No, we don't have any, but we're not interested in anyone, especially not from here in the classroom. That made them happy at first, but it discouraged them when they saw that they weren't interested in anyone. Student. And for Lisi-chan, Lily-chan, Alejandra-chan, and Julia-chan, do you have boyfriends or are you interested in someone? Issei. The truth is we don't have anyone and we're not interested in anyone since we came here to do something more important and not to have partners, she said with an innocent smile. Like her sisters, but she broke all the boys' hearts because she was very direct in saying that they came to study and not to have a partner. Teacher. Well, sit wherever you like. The students made room for some of them to sit with them, but they found one seat for all of them together. Julia. I'm sorry everyone, it's just that we're very close and we like to sit together. Everyone understood, with a bead of sweat forming on their foreheads because of how close the 6 siblings were. The same thing happened with the others, except that some of our protagonists are very enthusiastic, lively, and even threaten perverts not to approach their sisters. Some were hairy, like Hiyashi. And there was Durai's coldness, Ren's curtness, Ryo's jokes, Piero's over-enthusiasm for competition, Alan's laziness, Sauda's overconfidence, and the rest. What can you say? Let's just say it was a mess. During recess, all our main characters were eating at tables that were close to each other so that the group of siblings could be together. Durai. And how did your first day of classes go? I hope you didn't get into any trouble. Hiyashi. From my side, more or less, with the others, I was saying it, they're pirating. Durai. What do you mean? He said I'm with a raised eyebrow. Leo. Let's just say that in physical education, apart from the fact that the girls kept staring at all of us, Piero didn't let up on playing soccer and ended up not only scoring a goal, but also splitting the goal in half and a tree that was a few meters away. Piero. It's not my fault they told me to go all out and that this cat wouldn't pass me the ball, he said angrily. Ren. Stop bothering me, idiot. If I didn't let you have it, it was so you wouldn't do that. Ryo. That doesn't change the fact that you got distracted because of Tashi and he stole the palin and passed it on to Piero. He said this while eating some spider-shaped gummies. Ren just huffed under his breath. Sauda. Speaking of you, brother, why the hell did you have to say I was scared of spiders when I was with some girls? I haven't forgotten what you did to me last year. Beato. You mean when I put glue in the shampoo and your hands got stuck together while I was eating meatballs? Piru. Or when I glued your bed and stuff to the ceiling and it was hard for you to get it down? Oscar. When he put Volvo Itchy on your shoes and it looked like he was dancing the tango in training, he said it while dying of laughter. Jess. Oh, I remember now, you mean when we celebrated Halloween and Raya did everything too and you fell into his trap with Naomi and she fell into a witch's cauldron of green slime and you fell into the trap where a zombie woman doll came out and it seems like you and the doll were kissing. He said this mockingly to his younger brother. Sauda. Don't remind me, that was horrible. He said angrily. At least I got my revenge by throwing away some of your sweets. He said with a victorious smile. Ryo. You're mean, you can't take a good joke from me. Action meeting and the return of a wolf dragon to Kuo. After the break, classes ended and everyone went home. The next day passed normally, so we found ourselves at the faction meeting where all the leaders of each faction were waiting for someone to arrive. Zeus. What time will this begin and who are we waiting for? Michael. Calm down, Zeus Dono, we're waiting for Issei. As soon as he said that name, everyone thought they didn't expect to hear that name so many years after what happened 15 years ago. Everyone in the room became sad except for 3 goddesses we know. Brah, what do you mean by that, Michael? Do you know where he is? Azazel. Let's just say that Volley's team found him and managed to convince him to attend the meeting. Hades. But if you ask about the young man, Volley has bandages all over his body and even a cast, he said hesitantly, and all the leaders nodded. Auden. Let's just say he faced Issei and it didn't end well. Isaka. Can you show us the video of the fight? Searches nodded and a magic circle appeared. Everyone saw what Issei looked like now and they were all shocked, especially his former family. They were even more surprised to see how easily he beat Volley and to hear that he was using less than 1% of his full power. But they wondered where he got all that power, and since they remembered that all his powers had been taken away and he was just a human, they hoped to talk to him and explain what had happened years ago, that it had all been a misunderstanding, and ask him to return as the pillar of the factions. But they were interrupted by Aphrodite speaking. Aphrodite. Well, since Issei-kun will be here soon, Artemis and Athena want to ask you something, which you probably already know. You know that Issei-kun will be coming with some of his children as an escort. Tsukiyomi. Yes, and what do you mean by that? Do you know something we don't? Everyone paid attention to what she would say, especially regarding her faction. Aphrodite. Well, you see, he introduced all his children to Volley and his group and some of his wives and the others weren't there. Everyone agreed, but some had an idea but weren't sure. Aphrodite. Well, you see, that was us, since some of Issei's children are ours because he is our husband. Everyone. Wow. Zeus. Wait a second, that means I'm a grandfather. That explains why you were acting so strange. But why didn't you ever tell us? Artemis. Why would we tell them, father? Why would they kill our husband for continuing to believe he was a traitor, and why would you end up wanting to get rid of our children for thinking he was a threat just for being Issei-kun's children? That's why we didn't say anything. Aphrodite. Well, that's cleared up now. Our children will be at the meeting. I'm so eager to see my babies. I've missed them so much. And you girls. Artemisa. It's true, it's strange to arrive, some of the hunters are already almost at my level, and the competitions we long for. Athena. I already miss playing strategy games with them, and even more so telling stories of the world with the books from my library to my little Kaio and Yuki. This was said by the goddesses, very animated as they spoke of their children, while the group was seething with jealousy over the situation, especially upon learning that they were among Issei's wives. Athena. Our children are here, girls. That excited the other 2 goddesses. The guards opened the doors, and out came various people. Some had white or silver hair, others had hair almost pink like Aphrodite's, and still others had red hair like their father. But the most striking feature was that the young ones had wolf or fox ears, while others had dragon features. That was because they inherited some of their father's traits. Kaio and Yuki. Mom, mommy, we missed you so much. They ran out to hug their mom, who hugged them back. Athena. My little ones, how have you been? I miss you so much. Hugging her children with much love. Jeru. Look, do you see mommy? I don't see her, there are too many people, come here. Jiro. No, brother, where's mommy? But suddenly someone hugged them. How are my little hunting pups? The 2 turned around and said. The 2 of them. Mommy. Hugging Artemis surprised everyone as they knew her attitude but didn't expect her to be so affectionate with her children. Well, Aphrodite was hugging and cuddling a little red-haired boy of about 6 or 7 years old. Aphrodite. I've missed you, my little red ball of fur. How have you been, my little Peter? Peter. Okay, mommy, but I already miss you a lot and so do my brothers. Now we'll all live together and you won't be leaving. The little boy said, waiting for his mother's reply. Aphrodite. Yes, my little one, after this meeting, I will never leave you and your brothers again. The little boy was so excited that he hugged his mother even tighter and she returned his embrace, feeling the affection and love of her little one. Aphrodite. And you will not burn your mothers. Or you will not miss us, feigning sadness. The other young people appeared next to their respective mothers, hugging them affectionately, as they had missed each one of them very much. Everyone was surprised by the mother-son relationship of the 3 goddesses, and Zeus was even more surprised to see that 2 of his daughters already had children, and he was now a grandfather. He was saddened that he hadn't met them sooner because he feared they might harm him, believing the father of the young men to be a traitor, and if he had done such a thing, he would never forgive him. Besides, his daughters will never forgive him for doing something like that. Issei. Mother, soon my mothers will come soon with my other brothers and father. Athena. I understand, son. Thank you for the information. All the young people took their seats, each with their respective mother. After 5 minutes the door opened and 3 women entered first, whom they knew from the information provided by the volley group. They were still surprised to meet one of the 3 women who had just entered the room, and even more so to meet the clan she had previously belonged to, the Phoenix. The one who least expected it was their former king, Razor Phoenix, since he hadn't anticipated that his former queen was one of Issei's wives. He wondered which of the young people who had come with her and the other 2 women were her and Issei's children, and he had several questions to ask her about her life years ago. Ubaluna. Hello leaders, you already know me. I am Ubaluna, former queen of Razor Phoenix, of the House of Phoenix, and one of the wives of Issei Elementru, ruler of the Enchanted Elemental Kingdom. My other companions will introduce themselves. That is, my husband's other wives and our children. Flora. It's a pleasure, leaders. I am Flora, princess of the Fairy Kingdom, and one of the wives of Issei Elementru, ruler of the Enchanted Elemental Kingdom. She bows to the leaders. Alicia. It's a pleasure to meet you, leaders. I am Alicia, princess of the Tembus, and one of the wives of Issei Elementru, ruler of the Enchanted Elemental Kingdom. She bowed, revealing black wings like those of the fallen angels, except that unlike them, she only has 1 pair. The women presented their children, and it surprised the demons and even more the Phoenix that Ubaluna had 8 children with Issei, and that Flora had 7 children, and finally Alicia had 10 children. Aphrodite has 5 children with Issei, Artemis has 9 children with Issei, and Athena has 7 children with Issei. Everyone in the room was surprised to see so many young people, and even more so that they were all children of the same person who had hurt him in the past. All the young people took a seat next to their respective mothers, and after a few minutes they heard someone knocking on the door. When they opened it, there was a hooded figure in the living room who took a few steps until he was standing in front of everyone. Although those who were half animal, that is, yokai wings, the scent of the stranger altered their senses, telling them loudly that he was Issei. Shiva. Excuse me, but who are you? We were expecting someone else. He said this in a serious voice. Zeus. If you're in the wrong place, don't waste our valuable time and leave. You're probably just some nobody who wanted to get our attention. Well, you've done that, now go. He said this to the stranger in an arrogant, superior, and serious voice. The stranger, who was a complete stranger to everyone, didn't appreciate the disrespect shown to him and raised his gaze, revealing phosphorescent red eyes. His intense stare frightened everyone, leaving them feeling paralyzed and sweating profusely. They felt a kind of pressure that kept them rooted to their seats. The only ones unaffected were Issei's wives and children, wondering how they endured such immense pressure. Unknown. Well, if you have the nerve to speak to me like that, with such disrespect. So unpleasant, I, the one who saved your miserable lives from every enemy, who protected you from the Chaos Brigade, and from Trihexa, and from Rizabin, giving my blood, sweat, tears, and life, so that everyone would be alright. And that I received that all my achievements were given to my useless brothers, for believing their lies, making them believe that I never did anything useful, and that those useless ones defeated the enemies that I defeated. Well, you praise those good-for-nothings. I am recovering from my wounds from every battle. And even more so when they saw that they betrayed me, believing in evidence that was obviously fake, just because my useless brothers gave it to them, and they chose to believe them instead of me. They didn't doubt for a second whether it was true or not, and thanks to them I suffered a living hell in Tartarus, and was almost executed because of them. If it weren't for someone precious to me, I would be dead now. And you would be paying for that and more, having the hypocrisy to seek me out and ask me to return. You are all very naive, without a doubt. But you ask yourselves, who am I? The man whose life you ruined and whom you betrayed, who survived the hell of your betrayal and paid a punishment he never committed and certainly didn't deserve. I am the one who has the true power to annihilate you with just a flick of my fingers, and the master of all the arts. Magic exists and it doesn't. I am the Dark Dragon Wolf King of the Flames of Purgatory, an elemental mage and ruler of the Enchanted Elemental Kingdom. Formerly known as Sekiryuutei, but that name is dead to me, as is my old self. Now I have returned, Issei Elementary Factions. Part 6. Meeting of the Factions with the Dragon Wolf King. Everyone was surprised to learn that the stranger was the person they had been searching for years, and now he was standing in front of them with an appearance that made all the women in the room swoon and blush, except for their wives and daughters. Ice Kunnaisen San Samachan senpai brat boyfriend partner son. And more stupid hypocritical incestuous nonsense. But the protagonist just frowned and said. Issei. Don't you dare talk to me like nothing's wrong, you treacherous crawling vermin. He growled menacingly, showing his fox, wolf, and dragon tails. Everyone was frightened by the growling, and because his murderous instinct had not yet subsided due to anger. Ubaluna. Now, darling, calm down and let's sit down to find out what these scumbags want from us, she said while hugging him from behind, and he calmed down and went to sit in the middle with his wives and children. Issei. Well, factions, what do you want by bothering me and sending those useless volley team members to look for me? He said it with such a serious and icy look that it was frightening. Although everyone was surprised by the way he spoke to Volley and the others, although Volley was annoyed at being called useless, although Issei looked at him as if to say with his eyes that if he spoke, he would give him another beating worse than the one he gave him last time, and the silver-haired man said goodbye for his safety and health, and at Albion's request, it was better to shut his beak. All the other members of Volley's group lowered their heads, since the Redeed did not consider them friends, and it was clear that he hated them with all his being because it showed in his eyes, and that affected the only two girls in the group who just lowered their heads while crying silently. Searches. You see, Issei-kun, but before the menstrual-haired boy could continue speaking, he had to narrowly avoid a black energy beam that grazed his cheek, causing it to bleed a little. He saw behind him a hole in the wall with the mark of destruction. The hole was very large, and the Gremory felt fear because if he did not dodge the attack, he would undoubtedly have been seriously injured by it. Gremory saw how the reddish-haired fire wolf looked at him with a look of pure hatred. Issei. Don't talk to me like we're related, Gremory, and with that familiarity, which I haven't had since the time you betrayed me and left me for dead, he said, annoyed and with an irritated tone. Zudicus. But boy, we're family. You have a child with my daughter, that makes us family. I know we made a mistake, but that's not how people act. You can forgive and forget. Issei. A mistake. No, Gremory didn't make more than one mistake with me, they made thousands of mistakes, I've lost count. And if you're referring to that disgrace who calls himself my son, when he said that someone weak and useless like me should be his father, when he said he'd prefer Volley or Kiba or even my ex-brother to be his father and not me, he said with a venomous tone in his words, which made certain Gremory and Brat feel nervous and sad that the protagonist didn't see them as family. Issei. Besides, that would be God's doing, but I'm not God to forgive your damn stupidities and mistakes when you're the ones most responsible for this happening, although I should thank you because if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have awakened my true power, and even less so, I wouldn't have met the loves of my life and received the best gifts life could have given me, which are my true children whom I love and cherish with all my heart. All the protagonist's former children had their heads down because their father didn't consider them his children due to what they had done. He preferred his other children, whom he considered his true children, well they weren't. This only made them regret their actions even more. Riak. But Nyson, we're really sorry for what we did. Mom and Dad can't stop crying when they remember how we hurt you when you were little. I'm truly sorry. I know I did wrong. My jealousy of you being superior made your entire childhood a living hell. Issei. And what do I care about your suffering, Riak? This is what you deserve. This is the karma you earned. Besides, remember that Alyssa never considered you brothers, much less relatives of my pups, and I don't want you contaminating their minds with your nonsense. He said this very annoyed and serious, clearly not wanting to see those vermin near his children. Issei. Besides, Riak, what did you hope to gain by treating me badly, humiliating me, hitting me, and lying about me being a hopeless pervert who did bad things to Alyssa, stole things from others, and cheated? What would happen after you got everything you wanted, after you made my life as a human and in the supernatural world a living hell? He said this with hatred and disgust for having considered that trash a brother when he was never that, but scum. Riak didn't know what to say. His former older brother was literally telling him all the truths to his face. It was also clear how much the protagonist hated him, that he didn't see him as a brother, much less as family, and certainly not as family to his children, and that he saw him as the worst possible role model. Issei. You want me to tell everyone? Well, I'll tell them after ruining my life and taking the people who were my wives and children, you would have the best life ever, and until they made you Lucifer and you had your own children, and had all the recognition from the whole world, and your life would be perfect, businesswomen treating me like family and businesswomen seeing me as your brother. Everyone was shocked by what Issei said. It was horrible what he would have had to suffer. Issei. You just didn't consider the possibility that I might have gotten fed up with this horrible life, I might have committed suicide. He said it very seriously and threateningly, but everyone who heard what the former brunette said was alarmed and worried as ex-wives and children. Rias. Issei, you're not serious, are you? You would never do that, she said it with a tone of concern and disbelief at what the person she loved could have done. Issei. And if I had done it, what does it matter to you, Gremory? Although, if it weren't for you Belluna, Artemis, Athena and Aphrodite, I really would have done it, since I was close to doing it more than once. He said this seriously and angrily, his eyes shining with a reddish hue. Everyone was upset by what he said, as if they never realized that the former brunette's life had always hung by a thread, and if it weren't for the few people who truly loved him, he would have committed suicide from the beginning. Alyssa. Oh Onachan, and you're not serious, you wouldn't be capable of doing that, she said crying with a sad and upset tone. Issei. You think I'm lying? I'll show you the fiery Reed put his hands in a cube position and said, past memories of shadows. Suddenly a screen of shadows appeared where everyone saw that inside they could see the protagonist's memories. And they watched as he wanted to commit suicide several times because of all the things they did to him and he couldn't take it anymore, but they always saved him and comforted him, the only women who truly loved him. Everyone was horrified to see that, the 1001 ways Issei had always wanted to end his suffering because of them. Everyone in the room could only cry and regret more for what they had done, and the weakest among them were almost beyond traumatized. The former children could only cry harder and feel even more regret for having hurt the protagonist so much in the past. The former children were not well seeing how their former father wanted to die and no longer suffer in this world because of everyone and themselves. The most affected was Gremory, as he listened to his father's words about wanting to commit suicide to make him happy. It reminded the Reed of the day he'd gotten angry with his father and told him he'd be much happier if he were dead or if he weren't his father at all. He'd be happy and free if he disappeared, that he was ashamed to be the son of someone so useless, and that he wasn't strong and intelligent like everyone else, not a damned loser like him. He added that if he could have one wish, it would be to stop being his son. That only broke the boy's heart more, as he saw himself in the memory as his former father, repeating everything he had said that day, making him look like a heartless monster for saying all those things to the person who had always loved and cared for him. The girls would leave Issei to look after the children, always using the excuse that they had things to do for their degrees and jobs, even though it was a lie to go do what they wanted. He was always there to care for the children, feeding them, bathing them, protecting them, loving them, and teaching them everything. Mothers only appreciate him to give him gifts, spoil him, and pamper him, forgetting that he was practically the protagonist who took care of the children for almost their entire lives. When their mothers should have been there for them, they weren't. That's why he didn't participate in battles or gamer ratings or train much, because he had to take care of the children. That's why all his former children said he was weak and not strong. How was I going to train them and do all those other things if I had to take care of a bunch of spoiled brats who didn't even appreciate what I did for them? Part 7. A meeting of factions and a dragon wolf king. After the protagonist said that, everyone's thoughts and feelings in the room were a difficult mess to decipher, since they didn't think that the former brunette would be capable of taking his own life more than once because of their actions against him in the past. But to continue the meeting and ease the tense atmosphere in the room, his wives calmed him down so that the meeting wouldn't be as long as it already was for the fiery-haired man. He agreed, but without taking his cold gaze off everyone else in the room. Auden. Well, young man, we wanted to know how you acquired that power that humiliated Vali and his group, since before you were just a human and we had sealed all your dragon, demonic, and magical power, and for a human, it would be impossible for you to break the seal without having any supernatural energy. They all agreed with the old man of Auden, since for them it was impossible for the ancient chestnut tree to break the seal that had been placed on him and how he obtained that power. Issei. I already told you that it's none of your business to know that for now, and let one thing be clear. I am not your property, much less something sentimental to any of you, and I hate and despise you with all my soul, and I will not help you become your pillar again. And I don't want to see you anywhere near my children. I don't want any of you stupid people making my children join your little gangs or clans, much less making them slaves to filthy vermin like you. And I certainly won't go back to any of my ex-wives, and I won't recognize those blood traitors who were my children as my own. Kurenai. But father, we are truly sorry for what we did and we want to fix things with you and be with our other siblings and be a family as it should be, she said sadly, looking pleadingly at her father to forgive them for the grave mistake they made. Issei. Look Kurenai, this is what you brought upon yourselves with your arrogance, your thirst for power, fame, and prestige. Years ago, I would have been happy to accept what you say, but now it's too late to fix anything. 15 years too late and you brought this on yourselves. And I'm no longer your father. Any of your mother's lovers, the ones they cheated on me with, are. There you have Kiba, Vali, or anyone else, even the person you replaced me with, who was my brother. But now I only see him as the most despicable rat I've ever known in my entire life. He said it seriously, looking at his former son. He could only feel how every word from his former father struck him like arrows in his heart, and Ryuk only felt sadder to hear that his former brother saw him as the worst scum he could have ever known or had as a brother, and he could feel that the father was disgusted to share the same blood as him. Issei. And so that you don't think that those traitorous brats, who share my blood, have the same powers as me just because they share my blood, I will tell you that no, since I do not intend to allow any of the abilities of my clan to fall into the hands of arrogant scum. They only care about being better than anyone else, regardless of who they have to trample to achieve it, he said, raising his right hand, showing his claws and how they glowed in a reddish black and red tone, some words, expulsion of traitors from the clan, removal of the cursed seal of the Elementru clan. After he finished saying that, marks appeared on his former children's hands, a kind of wolf-fox hybrid with a demon's horn and dragon wings. As they glowed and disappeared, the boys felt weak, as if a part of them had been forcibly and painfully ripped away. Grubara. Dad, what did you do to us? Why do I feel weak? The rest of his siblings nodded in confirmation since they felt the same, and that worried the others, but especially their mothers, who wondered what the former brunette had done to their children. Issei. It was simple. What I did was seal their powers, those of my clan, and that means they are expelled from my clan and are not worthy to use any of my clan's abilities after betraying the family that I once was. And if any of you use any of my abilities, that mark will activate, giving you a painful lesson. Be grateful that I didn't remove them, I only sealed them with a special seal that no one can ever remove, and certainly no one else can. Only I can do that. And the other thing is that if they were removed from your bodies, being accustomed to having them, it could have killed you almost your entire lives, as they are a part of you. But with this seal, you won't die, though you also won't be able to use my clan's abilities. Be grateful that I don't want to soil my hands and conscience with the death of scum I once called children. He said it with a serious, emotionless look, staring at the shocked faces of his former children, who couldn't believe what the former brunette had done. Issei. This meeting for me and my family is over, and I hope you won't bother me, much less try to force me to come back with you, because if you make me lose my patience, you will suffer my wrath. Remember, I'm not the same good and kind Issei who let himself be mistreated and made a fool of and enslaved by you. He said this as he got up from the table, and so did his wives and children. Everyone was with their husband and father. Before any of the leaders or his ex-wives and children could try to stop him, it was too late. The former brunette had already disappeared, reappearing in their home, happy that the day was over and that they could rest from the supernatural beings and most of the stupid things they did and said. And they all went to dinner and then to sleep to see what would happen the next day. Part 8. Remembering the past. You could see a certain Reed stretching in warm-up because since what happened he wanted to be alone for a moment, his family understood since this was too much for him and he needed to clear his thoughts and be calm. Issei. Stupid factions, after so many years they still beg me to go back to them, but that will never happen. I have a beautiful family who truly loves and respects me, and I respect them. He remembered his loved ones and his children, as the meeting with the factions and his former acquaintances left a bad taste in his mouth, especially seeing their hypocrisy and asking him to come back when all of this happened because of them. But the only thing he doesn't regret is meeting people who are truly his family now and that he will never forget. Although he was annoyed and angered by the Zionism of his former brothers, by their empty apologies, neither he nor Sabina truly understood how he felt about all the hell they put him through because of their foolishness. Besides, they never realized that he wanted to end his life more than once. But if it weren't for his loved ones, he wouldn't be here now. He smiled at the memory, but then gazed at the moon with a melancholic smile, missing two people who were like family to him. Though not blood-related, they were his teachers and a father figure, and they had been a part of his life all these years. Before they passed away naturally, he would always miss them and cherish their teachings and advice. Issei. How I wish Father Liashi and Uncle Shino were here with me. They were there for me in difficult times and never let me give up in the face of adversity and what happened in the past. Now I am the leader of this place and in your name, we will protect all our people. And we will not allow the supernatural world or Rizabin to harm anyone. I hope you return from your mission soon and are well. We wouldn't mind losing you. You're the only ones who give me a real home and the warmth and happiness of a family that I've always lacked my whole life. He said it seriously and with determination in his words, apart from looking at the moon and remembering that today, 16 years ago, was when his whole adventure in this place began. Flashback. 16 years ago, a chestnut-haired boy could be seen lying badly wounded on the ground where his family and acquaintances had left him to die. After spending months in Tartarus, they brought him out to see if he could save his own life, but he was relentlessly pursued and attacked by everyone he knew. The poor boy, so weak and wounded, couldn't endure anymore. His body had collapsed. He could only think that his entire life had been a living hell since childhood and that he had encountered the supernatural, wishing he had never tried to interact with such treacherous beings as the factions that now, because of them, he was going to die alone, with no one by his side. He knew that his friends, the only ones who believed in him Eubuluna, Athena, Artemis and Aphrodite were the only ones who didn't believe everyone's lies, much less that he was a traitor. But he knew they were locked up so they wouldn't interfere with saving him, since the chestnut-haired man knew they could be punished in horrible ways if they helped him. That's why he didn't want that to happen to them, and he resigned himself to dying knowing they would be alright. His former siblings, Ryuk and Alyssa, made his life a living hell, claiming he was a pervert, that he stole money from his parents, or that he spied on Alyssa and stole her personal belongings, all of which were untrue. They also said he forced them to do his chores and beat and humiliated them, none of which were true. And they steal credit for the things Issei did. Even Drake complained that Issei's brothers were better than him and preferred having Ryuk as a partner instead of someone useless and weak like him, which hurt the brunette's feelings even more, in addition to the rejection from Issei's parents, who said horrible and hurtful things to him. They asked why he wasn't like his brothers, and if they had known he would be useless and a burden in their lives, they would have decided to get rid of him. Even after he managed to win over the Gremory clan, they played with his heart in the worst way, making him believe he loved them. After the defeat of the Trihexa and the Chaos Brigade, there was peace for a while, and Issei married the girls he loved, but they only did it because they were all hiding something they planned to do to Issei in the future. Time passed, and the girls became pregnant with Issei's children. It was then that the girls began to fall in love with him, and everyone else, seeing his mistakes, especially his family and all the supernatural beings, apologized to him for all the bad things they had done. Although, as time went on, everything returned to normal, unfortunately for Issei. His children had been born, but the Gremory family didn't take care of them as they should, forcing Issei to care for them day and night without stopping. While they were fulfilling their dreams, when the children were 8 years old, the Gremorys finally returned to claim their children and be a family. However, only a few months passed before the children preferred Kiba, Vali, and the Gremorys, along with Ryuk, as their parents, rather than the one who had cared for them, educated them, and watched over their lives, health, and safety. This was how they repaid him for what he had done for them. But when he was kicked out of the house, and this was because there had been a meeting with the factions, which everyone attended except Issei, who was busy taking care of his twin sons who had a cold and couldn't go, as he didn't want to leave them alone and preferred to care for them himself. It was then that a high-class demon brought information about him. He was a traitor and part of the Chaos Brigade, an ally of Rizabun, passing on information about them. And that's why everyone started mistreating Issei again, and they had kicked him out of the house because they didn't want someone like him near the children. He had to go to the human world because he didn't know why everyone treated him that way, since no one wanted to give him a home or a job in any faction. And he begged them to at least give him a place to spend the night. He could work at anything or do it for free, just to have a place to sleep. Everywhere he went, he was denied anything. They either turned him away or slammed the door in his face, making him even sadder and more frustrated. He remembered the words of everyone, even his own children, who preferred others to someone like him, which only made things worse for the chestnut-haired boy's heart. When he went to the human world, no one would give him a home or a job, since the faction leaders had contracts and businesses. They prevented him from having a job and leaving him with nowhere to go. He even begged his parents, but they just laughed in his face. And they told him many horrible things to the point that he cried more and more and gradually lost hope, since even his own mother told him that he was a failed abortion and never wanted to see him again in her life, slamming the door in his face, refusing to listen to his pleas. Even on his knees he begged his parents, but they turned a deaf ear. Until one day, while searching for food in a demon alley, he was captured by demons. Weak from lack of sleep and food, he was exhausted and unable to defend himself. He was knocked unconscious and awoke in a cell in Tartarus. He wondered what had happened and why he was there, but standing before him were all his acquaintances who told him he was there for being a traitor. They said many horrible and hurtful things to Issei, to the point that his heart was beyond broken and empty, and it was there that his tortures began for almost a year, until one day they released him to be executed. He tried to escape as best he could, since when they extracted Drake he was too weak and wounded and they had to escort him to move, but he barely managed to reach the limits of the underworld. Opening a magic circle, he managed to reach a forest on the outskirts of Kuo. But he fell painfully to the ground from an attack by Rias' destruction, which struck his arm and part of his back. He crawled as best he could to escape, while the factions and all his former acquaintances mocked his attempt, torturing him one last time, before leaving him to die from his wounds. They believed it was impossible for someone like Issei, a human, to survive so many lethal and severe injuries. They thought he would be dead within an hour or less. Issei only heard their laughter as they left, wishing him, with all the happiness and malice in the world, that he would die once and for all. No one wanted him. He was just a burden to the world and to everyone. No one would ever love him, much less need someone like him. They all left in a magic circle to celebrate what they had done, while the brown-haired boy thought that this was how he would die, that his life had been a complete waste, and why he had come to this world if only to suffer. But at least he could rest in peace. But then a portal appeared out of nowhere, revealing a snowy landscape, and emerging was a somewhat older man with white hair, bright yellow eyes, and dark white hair with red streaks. He had wolf ears and a tail and wore glasses with gold-colored accents. Yashi. How strange, I swear I sensed a weak but potentially powerful presence from my clan here. From the same portal came someone else who was a man with skin as white as snow, long white hair, wolf ears and tail, light blue eyes, and he wore old military clothing from the 14th century, along with a red scarf with gold details like clouds. Shino. Brother, have you found that presence you said you felt? Liashi. Not yet, but it's nearby, look over there. He said this while looking at the dying chestnut-haired man. The two men approached, concerned about the young man's condition, wondering how a young man of Issei's age could be in such a deplorable state, especially in a place like this at this hour of the night. But they saw the signs of destruction, beatings, torture and injuries of almost every degree on the chestnut-haired man's body. The two men took out their necklaces, whose stones were yellow. The crystals began to glow, and strange symbols appeared above Issei, healing all his wounds. The two men realized it was Issei they had been searching for and took him to their home so he could rest, and they could find out what had happened to him that had left them in such a state. After a few hours, the chestnut-haired man awoke, and the men explained who they were and where he was, now a kingdom. It was very hidden from the supernatural to avoid being involved in the constant wars and conflicts between factions, and they didn't want to be involved in that for the safety of their people. That's how Issei stayed in the kingdom and trained for years with his two new masters, who were like family to him, and they considered him part of their family as well. That's how Issei grew stronger and stronger, eventually becoming the leader and king of that kingdom. He guided and helped the people there, and everyone loved and respected him so much that, due to his power, his hair turned red, similar to that of his master and father, Liashi. When he was young, and now, Issei would take his place as leader of that kingdom and protect his people. Issei, formerly a brunette, accepted this, since from the moment he arrived everyone treated him well, unlike the factions that judge people harshly based on their appearance, race, and origins. Unlike the people of his new home, who were sociable and kind to one another, regardless of race. Once he was strong enough, he returned to his loved ones, who were overjoyed that he was alive. Then he explained what had happened. They were surprised, and he introduced them to two friends, Flora and Alicia, who had helped him a lot since he arrived in his new home and kingdom. The three of them became great friends. The girls accepted them as Issei's partners and agreed that they, like them, would be with him. It was obvious from afar what the two of them felt, and now he had 6 partners. After some time, they went with him to his kingdom, and now they were married and had children. Our protagonist's father and uncle were on an important mission, which will be told another time, and everything else that leads us to the present moment. Part 9. Previously. Shino. Brother, have you found that presence you said you felt? Liashi. Not yet, but it's nearby, look over there. He said this while looking at the dying chestnut-haired man. The two men approached, concerned about the young man's condition, wondering how a young man of Issei's age could be in such a deplorable state, especially in a place like this at this hour of the night. But they saw the signs of destruction, beatings, torture and injuries of almost every degree on the chestnut-haired man's body. The two men took out their necklaces, whose stones were yellow. The crystals began to glow, and strange symbols appeared above Issei, healing all his wounds. The two men realized it was Issei they had been searching for and took him to their home so he could rest, and they could find out what had happened to him that had left them in such a state. After a few hours, the chestnut-haired man awoke, and the men explained who they were and where he was, now a kingdom. It was very hidden from the supernatural to avoid being involved in the constant wars and conflicts between factions, and they didn't want to be involved in that for the safety of their people. That's how Issei stayed in the kingdom and trained for years with his two new masters, who were like family to him, and they considered him part of their family as well. That's how Issei grew stronger and stronger, eventually becoming the leader and king of that kingdom. He guided and helped the people there, and everyone loved and respected him so much that, due to his power, his hair turned red, similar to that of his master and father, Liashi. When he was young, and now, Issei would take his place as leader of that kingdom and protect his people. Issei, formerly a brunette, accepted this, since from the moment he arrived everyone treated him well, unlike the factions that judge people harshly based on their appearance, race, and origins. Unlike the people of his new home, who were sociable and kind to one another, regardless of race. Once he was strong enough, he returned to his loved ones, who were overjoyed that he was alive. Then he explained what had happened. They were surprised, and he introduced them to two friends, Flora and Alicia, who had helped him a lot since he arrived in his new home and kingdom. The three of them became great friends. The girls accepted them as Issei's partners and agreed that they, like them, would be with him. It was obvious from afar what the two of them felt, and now he had 6 partners. After some time, they went with him to his kingdom, and now they were married and had children. Our protagonist's father and uncle were on an important mission, which will be told another time, and everything else that leads us to the present moment. The chestnut tree was having dinner with his family, happy and calm. Ubaluna. Darling, doesn't it bother you that the factions are trying to keep bothering you? So that you'll agree to go back to them. Flora. The Gremory clan, your former family, and the leaders won't leave you alone until you return, especially your former children. They'll want to make up for lost time with you. Issei. I know, girls, but it doesn't matter. They know the consequences of their actions. What they did to me is unforgivable and unspeakable, and it's not easy to forget or forgive. It's not like trying to hide the sun with a finger, just like their past actions against me that cost me my life more than once. If it weren't for you all, I would have committed suicide a long time ago. I'm also grateful to my father and uncle for showing up that day. The factions almost murdered me in cold blood. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here. I'd probably be a soul adrift in limbo, not knowing where it would go. Because of the factions' foolishness, I doubt they'd let me go to heaven or the Elysian fields. If the factions continue to harass me, they will exhaust my patience. My patience is infinite, but it has a limit, one they will never want to reach or even know. If they dare to take me by force and harm any of you, my children, or my people, the factions will wish they had never existed. I don't care if I kill any of the Gremories or my former children. Before, I might have cared about what happened to them, but now I don't care about their lives. They are no longer part of me or my life. They made their own decisions and accepted them, regardless of the consequences. My former children mean nothing to me anymore. They may share my blood, but I reject them. They are arrogant and ungrateful brats who preferred others, luxuries, and power to me, their father, their own family, and their own blood. They turned their backs on me, wishing me dead rather than be my children. Now I'm the one who hates them, and now they wanted me out of their lives. Now they long for me to be a part of their lives again, when they're the ones who kicked me out in the first place. The most painful betrayal isn't from an enemy, because an enemy wouldn't lie to you. What good would it do to hide it when they can use it against you? The most painful betrayal comes from the people you claim to love and want to protect with your life. Always the person you trust most blindly. Without questioning their actions, knowing they are wrong, that person will be the first to stab you in the back, abandoning you and leaving you to die at the hands of wild animals or death itself. He said it in a voice so cold, filled with his negative emotions. Hatred, contempt, disappointment, rage, anger, fury, disdain, indifference, and annoyance. Alice. Calm down, father, we would never do the same to you as they did. Iridide said it while hugging her father. Zach. My sister is right, Dad. They're ungrateful and don't deserve anything from you. Ryo. Those good-for-nothings just want to cover up their sins, but in the most hypocritical way. Without even putting themselves in your shoes, you gave them everything, and how do they repay you? They turn their backs on you. Jin. The Gremory children will never be our brothers, father. It disgusts us deeply that you gave everything for them, while their mothers neglect them as if they were little girls, forgetting that they are mothers, and their responsibility is to care for their children. Instead of leaving all the responsibility to their father, you show up as if nothing happened, claim them, and spoil them rotten. Hanzo. Those are so useless from being spoiled that even Ruby could beat the son of the tomato-haired one. Ruby. Yes, father, it's obvious from afar that they can only control their powers, but their physical strength is so low that they could put that ex-Gremory in her place. Oliver. They're so confident in their powers that they don't trust their physical strength. No doubt their mothers spoiled them to the point that they're useless in combat. Alex. They're probably so weak I don't even need my spiritual power to tear them to pieces. Sophia. If they dare to wage war to take Dad back by force, I wouldn't hesitate to kill some of them. Our bond with those bastards doesn't exist anyway. They betrayed Dad and were willing to let him be murdered without mercy. Why should we consider those idiots our older brothers when they're the worst scum? The other children of the former chestnut-haired man said the same, supporting their brothers and sisters, who would never see the Gremories and their children as part of their family when they were worse than trash or scum. Knowing what they did to their father, who sacrificed so much for them, only to be repaid with such betrayal. Issei calmed his children, explaining that there was no point in talking about people who meant nothing to them. He said it was better to eat happily and not dwell on supernatural beings who had only ruined their happy dinner. Everyone nodded and they started talking about trivial and happy things. The boys were telling how some of the boys at the academy wanted to win over their sisters and even harassed them a little. This made Issei jealous, like any jealous father who would let any boy near his princesses. He wore a calm smile, but his hair looked like a burning torch and several veins bulged on his face. Suppressing their jealousy, the girls said they told those bullies to stay put. Otherwise, their brothers would have killed or castrated those boys for bothering their sisters. Kurama was recounting how well his music class went and how he'd invented a new song. Sauda mentioned how well he did playing soccer, but then he glared at Ryo, who was explaining that he'd played a little prank that had left his shoes stuck to the ceiling of the locker room. The purple-haired boy just whistled, as if to say, "It wasn't me," causing everyone to sweat drop and his parents to laugh. Jiro and Jiro said they had a good time at school playing with other children. Durai commented that he enjoyed being in the library reading some books. Piero excitedly recounted how he beat his classmates in every physical test. The boy with tiger ears, Jack, roared with excitement and said he liked being in the kendo club. But he didn't like the teachers because they were loud. The others shared their day, saying they had a lot of fun despite a few mishaps. The little blonde boy, Kotaro, said he did well in preschool, mentioning that he painted and drew. He said his teacher, Mizuki, was a bit sleepy but a good person. The Redeed smiled happily, hoping his children were having a good day. Their wives felt the same. After dinner, everyone went to sleep, except for the Redeed, who woke up sensing the presence of his ice phoenix, which had brought him a message along with a scroll and a communication crystal. The Redeed placed the crystal in a kind of silver mirror in the middle of the room where the silhouettes of two white-haired men appeared, one with long hair and the other with short hair, who were the father and uncle of the former brunette. Issei. Father, uncle, it's a pleasure to see you. How are you doing in the spirit realm? Shino. Well, nephew, although a bit tired. We'll be back in the kingdom in a few months. Issei. I'm glad you're both okay. Ryashi. Likewise, son, how's everything over there? Issei told them what had happened during this time, including his encounter with Vali's team and the brutal beating he received from the former brunette, so brutal that even Vali couldn't land a single blow on him. He also told them how the others were doing and about his meeting with the people who betrayed him, the things they said to try and lure him back, and their hypocrisy in apologizing in such a despicable way. His wives had to calm him down to prevent him from killing all the traitors in the room. The two men were outraged to hear what had happened. Who did these supernatural beings think they were? To ask their son and nephew to come back to them after all the mistreatment, humiliation, abandonment, torture, and betrayal he suffered at their hands, they had the nerve to say that. After the three of them calmed down and talked about trivial things for a while, apart from telling Issei that he should soon travel to another world to be away from the factions for a while. Issei. I don't see anything wrong with the idea, father, but why should I do it? Ryashi. Open the scroll and you'll find out. The Redeed, curious, opened the parchment and saw it was a letter from an old friend he'd made in the spirit realm. The friend was asking Issei to do him the favor of looking after and investigating a world he'd seen years before. He explained that he was overwhelmed with work and couldn't take on the responsibility himself, assuring Issei it would be interesting and that he could live there with his family and help locate the kingdom. Since he knew the Redeed was having some trouble with the traitors and it was good to get a break from them, the Redeed wasn't surprised that his friend, the god of prophecy and visions, knew about his situation, especially since he was the first to hear all the gossip throughout the kingdoms. But it wasn't a bad idea. It would be good to help his friend with this favor, and at the same time, he and his family could avoid the factions for a while, as he wasn't in a position to tolerate their nonsense. Although he sensed that world would bring him some trouble, he should investigate it for about 6 months to gather information about that place, since his friend explained in the letter that there were humans there who weren't normal like those in his world. This piqued the Redeed's curiosity even more. After investigating, he decided that he could move the kingdom and his family there, since with the factions disturbing their sacred peace, there would only be more death and destruction. He prefers to avoid future problems and wars, as he doesn't want to involve his people with such vile beings as the factions. Besides, he wouldn't take his eyes off his potential enemies, even from another world. He'd be watching what happens. He hung up the phone with his father and uncle, saying goodbye, and spent some time pondering his decisions before making his choice and going to sleep so he could talk to his family in the morning. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.